I have recused myself from any existing or future investigations. I think it was hyped beyond reason, and I think it was unfair. I was glad to be able to address it.
Attorney General Sessions should resign.
He has proved that he is unqualified and unfit.
I think that's ridiculous. Our good friends on the other side are hyperventilating.
People who are choosing to play partisan politics, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Democrats are lighting their hair on fire to get you to cover this story.
This story is the Democrat Party attempting to sabotage the Trump presidency.
We will give our military the tools you need to prevent war and, if required, to fight war and only do one thing: win.
The Senate has confirmed Ben Carson as housing secretary. Several Democrats also crossed over to confirm former Texas Governor Rick Perry as energy secretary.
Her first solo outing, First Lady Melania Trump reading to sick kids in a New York City hospital.
You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any directions you choose.
This is gonna be the best day of my life.
Oh, The Places You'll Go. That's the book, the Dr. Seuss book that Melania was just reading from. And as you start your broadcast day, the places will take you today.
That's right. At any age, that book is so appropriate.
It's great.
And so wonderful.
I have a problem with Dr. Seuss.
What's that?
Oh.
My problem with Dr. Seuss is you're trying to teach kids real words.
Right.
And he comes up with words that aren't real.
Like
so
green
eggs? Well, that we understand, but there are a lot of words that don't exist. And I think
like Whoville?
I think well, those are words I could deal with, but there are other words that don't exist. That it's hard to give a kid the wrong vocabulary and pretend as if you're raising them correctly.
Well, today, I believe, is Dr. Seuss's birthday.
Right.
I got an email, take your kids to go celebrate his birthday. It's the Dr. Seuss birthday party.
Right. Was that from
Amazon?
Amazon?
To do. It was from a friend saying, you want to come with me?
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, in the spirit of Dr. Seuss, the word of the day: recusal, because that is what our Attorney General Jeff Sessions made very clear yesterday. Because he worked on the campaign, he has said he will not be involved with any campaign investigations. Here he is last night with Tucker Carlson. He's just going to explain that meeting.
The exclusive interview.
The exclusive interview after his press conference. Here's Tucker and Mr. Sessions.
I don't think what was said about that meeting I had with the Russian ambassador was legitimate. I think it was hyped beyond reason, and I think it was unfair. I was glad to be able to address it today. We had started, when I got confirmed, I told the Senate during that process that I would review issues before me to determine whether or not I should recuse myself. Recusal is not an admission of any wrongdoing. It's simply that whether or not you can be perceived as fairly deciding a case or evaluating a case. And so I committed to do that. After I became Attorney General, and I've only been there 3 weeks, we met with professional staff, ethics people, to discuss this issue, and we had a full meeting a week or so ago and planned to have a meeting today. It was on our schedule to make a final decision about whether or not I should recuse myself. And the reason I believed I should recuse myself is because I was involved in the campaign. To a degree, I think it would have been perceived is that I wouldn't be objective in participating in an investigation that might involve the campaign. I do not confirm or deny any investigation. I just felt like I should clear the air, and we were moving toward that end even before this latest flap.
I believe if there's anybody that should do well in these congressional hearings, it's a lawyer. Because, you know, if you put Ryan Zinke, a Navy SEAL, in there, you know, you might say something, or you have the governor of Texas, who's not a lawyer, trying to be Secretary of Energy, you could see how they might do something, but you would expect a lawyer who understands the nuances of this business to say, hey, on times of a hypothetical situation, don't answer. Or when it comes to Russia, pre-think it. However, to his defense, that news broke in the middle of his testimony. Number two, Al Franken had a tortured, circuitous question.
It was a very long question.
Right, and number three, there's an excellent chance that he didn't even, because nothing happened significantly, he didn't even remember about the Heritage Foundation incident or this ambassador came through.
They're two separate issues. He was a senator when he met with the ambassadors. Al Franken, if you read his question, which is very long, he basically says, was there an exchange of information between Trump surrogates and the Russian government? Well, Sessions goes on to say, many people think I was a surrogate. No, I did not have relations with the Russians, basically while I was a surrogate.
I thought that for a minute you were mixing up some of that Lewinsky stuff.
Yeah, I was starting to get a Lewinsky flashback.
Relations?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I did not have... No, but the point is, when he was a surrogate, when he was working for the campaign, he was not talking to the Russians about the campaign.
It's just amazing because in any scenario, in any scenario with the Trump people involved, what are you thinking about? Hacked emails. Who played a role in that? Do you think Jeff Sessions said, I know John Podesta's password, and I know that he's ripping, I know that Hillary's people are working behind the scenes to undermine Bernie Sanders? Am I going to tell you was it the Russian idea not to campaign for 2 months in any battleground state like Hillary Clinton? Mm-hmm. So in the big picture, this is a head fake. However, it was, to me, a legitimate mistake by him.
Well, you know, it was to his credit, it was a crazy question, a very long question. He's going to write to the Judiciary Committee later today or the next day or two to explain what he was saying, because it was...
Did he say he's going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, his boss, Donald Trump, was defending Jeff Sessions. He sent out a couple of tweets yesterday and wrote this: Jeff Sessions is an honest man. He did not say anything wrong. He could have stated his response more accurately, but it was clearly not intentional. This whole narrative is a way of saving face for Democrats losing an election that everyone thought they were supposed to win. The Democrats are overplaying their hand. They lost the election, and now they have lost their grip on reality. The real story is all of the illegal leaks of classified and other information. It is a total witch hunt. And you know what? That is exactly what Rush Limbaugh said on his radio show yesterday.
This story is not about Jeff Sessions. This story is not about illegal talks between Trump and his campaign people and the Russians. This story is Barack Obama and the Democrat Party attempting to sabotage the Trump presidency and do everything they can to either render it meaningless and ineffective or to get him impeached or force him to resign. That's what the story is. And that is what has to be attacked, not defended. We have no reason to be on defense all the time. We won the election. These people are barely hanging on. This is all they've got. And there's no evidence, despite a year and a half of allegations of illegal contact between Trump, his campaign, and the Russians. There is no evidence.
It's true. And I'll add this, too. So it looks like within the Trump camp, I imagine the president said anybody who had any contacts with Russia come clean, at which time Jared Kushner says in a meeting that Michael Flynn was having at the Trump Tower with the ambassador of Russia, I came in and sat down for 20 minutes and left. That's what has to, yeah. But at least that's what they probably should have said 2 months ago. But now everyone has to look inside their daily planner and see if they had a meeting, so this doesn't become a very, a huge distraction.
Yeah, I think when we all heard this yesterday morning, we were saying, all right, let's review the facts, let's report, let you decide at home. Now that the facts have been reported, if you read Al Franken's question, if you hear his answer, he has done nothing wrong.
Well, look, he certainly did not perjure himself. Everybody agrees on that. But nonetheless, the Democrats are saying, OK, he's got to recuse himself. Oh, he did that? All right, now he's got to resign. He's not going to resign over this. Jeanne Shaheen, actually, the senator from the great state of New Hampshire yesterday, said that perhaps the Russian hacking was actually an act of war. That's just some of the stuff you'll hear in the media. The Media Research Center did a study of Donald Trump's, what is usually a honeymoon period with the press, found out that 88% of the coverage during his first month was hostile. They took out, and this was with the big three networks, they took out all the pundits and clear partisans and just looked at the comments of the anchors and the reporters, and 88% of their comments were hostile.
So they crowded stories with quotes from angry citizens instead of talking to the majority of people who were happy they just put in the sound bites of angry citizens. They provided little airtime to President Trump, and the anchors and reporters injected their own anti-Trump opinions.
Perhaps the greatest moment outside the speech on Tuesday on 1B could be the president's change of tone in times of turbulence. Those were two controlled tweets and a press release. He didn't vent. I thought this shows a communications maturity or a staffing up or a change. I think it's very significant.
Changing his messaging.
Yep, there you go.
Trying to increase that grade from a C to an A+.
Right? Himself.
With the rest, I don't think that's good.
You know what? Abby will not grade herself, but I would always give her an A. How about you guys?
So nice, Brian. I can't say the same
You got some
about
bonus
you, though.
points over there.
Morning.
Good morning, you guys. Good to see you this morning. We do want to get to a Fox News alert and a fire overnight at the Trump Hotel in New York City. Flames breaking out within the last hour in a room on the 47th floor. One person is hurt. No word on how bad, and no one had to be evacuated. We will, of course, keep you posted as we get more information throughout the morning. Also this morning, 2 inmates killed when an out-of-control fight broke out at a maximum security prison. Guards say about 40 inmates sparked the violent outburst inside the Tecumseh State Prison in Nebraska, even setting a fire in a courtyard. No prison guards were hurt. This is the second deadly incident at that prison in 2 years. And 20 airstrikes in less than 24 hours. The United States unloading on Yemen at this hour. The strikes targeting al-Qaeda fighters, equipment, and their bases. It's the first military action since the raid in January that killed Navy SEAL Ryan Owens. And this, as we learned, that raid did gather critical intelligence, including hundreds of email addresses and phone numbers for al-Qaeda in the Middle East and in the West. The Pentagon confirming this info could prevent terror attacks around the world. Also this story, Patrick Stewart fights mutants as Professor X. Now the British citizen is looking to fight President Trump. Take a listen.
Now applying for citizenship.
Oh, good. Why?
Because I want to be an American too, because all of my friends in Washington said there is one thing you can do: fight, oppose, oppose.
Wow. Stewart telling the ladies on The View on a recent visit to Washington, D.C., he had the worst night's sleep he's had in years and says President Trump may have had something to do with it. So much anger. It's really unfortunate. It really is.
There's a lot of that. By the way, Abby's going to be with us in a little bit because you had an exclusive interview with somebody we see all the time.
Sean Spicer. It was a busy week for us in Washington this week for all of us. Coming up at 6:22. I'll be back.
Okay.
Just to follow the other big story today, the Dr. Seuss controversy, where I feel nonsense words are hurting children. Brian, I wanted to explain the benefits of reading silly words. Think about multisyllabic words. Many syllables are nonsense. As a reading specialist, we actually assess the national standards. Nonsense words. Research has shown that reading non-words is most beneficial to early readers. So the last thing you want to do is show kids real words.
Well,
Plus
I mean,
creativity.
if you have a conversation with like a 1-year-old, you can't understand them. It's like just gibberish. They aren't real words.
So play along.
Right.
There you go.
His birthday was yesterday, by the way.
There you go. Meanwhile, she swore to uphold the law, but now this judge is accused of helping an illegal evade ICE.
Plus, no more kneeling for Colin Kaepernick. He needs a job. Why he is changing his stance and standing straight up the next time he hears the national anthem. Really? Really?
Well, yesterday, the Attorney General of the United States said, you know what, I'm going to recuse myself. I wasn't involved in, I worked on the campaign. I won't be involved in any campaign investigations. Former DOJ official J. Christian Adams joins us right now. J. Christian, did he have to recuse himself?
No, he probably shouldn't have either. But, you know, Steve, this is part of a pattern. First they came for Steve Bannon, then they came for General Flynn, now it's Sessions. This is how the Democrats are going to behave, to delegitimize the president, to make Jeff Sessions worry about this instead of the corruption that Obama and Holder left in his Justice Department. It's part of a governing strategy by the Democrats.
Well, that's all they got. I mean, they don't have any power in the Houses or in the White House. So do you agree with Rush Limbaugh's statement that we played just a moment ago, that he said essentially, keep in mind the Obama administration on the way out, they scattered all this top secret intelligence about the Russia probe across the government so everybody would be talking about it to sandbag and sabotage Donald Trump?
People need to understand this is just the beginning, what's happening to Jeff Sessions. You're exactly right. Rush is right. What they did, Steve, is they put information in the hands of tons of people in the department knowing they would leak. At the same time, the swamp is not being drained. You had radical Obamaites being elevated 2 days before the inauguration all throughout the department into political slots, into places where they can't be fired easily. And they are still there. They are sabotaging the president like Sally Yates did right after the inauguration.
You wrote a piece yesterday on PJ Media that I read. A U.S. senator did collude with Russians to influence the presidential election. That is just a fact. Which senator?
Ted Kennedy. In 1984, Ted Kennedy sent signals to the Soviets that he could get them booked on network TV to talk directly to the American people to undermine Reagan. It happened. It is the fact that Ted Kennedy colluded with the Soviet Union to swing the 1984 presidential election. It is an outrage, but that's what these Democrats do. They project. They get angry about stuff they want to do or have done.
You know, jog my memory, Eric Holder, who lied about selling guns to Mexico, was held in contempt of Congress, first time ever, I think. Tell us about his recusal.
Yeah, he didn't, and it wasn't just contempt, Steve. It was criminal contempt. He should have been put before a grand jury and conceivably indicted. There was no outrage from Chuck Schumer. There was no outrage from the senator from Ringling Brothers. There was no outrage from Nancy Pelosi. It was all cover up. It's a double standard, but it's part of how they govern. They personalize and polarize people and attack them. It doesn't have to do with policy. They don't like the election in November. That's why they're attacking Sessions.
And this is just the beginning, according to you. J. Christian Adams, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday morning.
Thank you, Steve.
You bet. What do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, coming up earlier this week, President Trump gave himself a C for messaging. So does the White House press secretary agree? Sean Spicer with Abby coming up next. And bye-bye to the brawny man. Oh, he's being replaced, well, by a woman.
All right, can Snapchat keep up its record pace when markets open this morning? The social media app, which disappears quickly, surging 44% on its first day of public trading, ending at a worth of $34 billion. That's more than I have in the bank. And a Catholic school in California is cashing in on Snapchat. St. Francis High School investing $15,000 5 years ago in the company. The school made $24 million yesterday. What? Yep, and if you have a Costco card, be prepared to dish out more for your membership. Fees are going up $5, bringing basic Gold Star plans to go up $60. Executive membership will also go up from $110 to $120. The price changes start in June. And bye-bye brawny man. Hello, brawny women. I've never said that before. The paper towel company replacing its iconic lumberjack on packaging to celebrate Women's History Month. It's part of Brawny Strength Has No Gender campaign. Who can remember the time in history when women were brawny?
She's wearing the same outfit, too.
Yeah.
Think flannel. She's wearing red, as is Abby Huntsman, who joins us right now. Abby, you went down to our nation's capital and you talked to Sean Spicer on what was a very busy news day.
Yeah, who would have expected that? I got there yesterday morning, right when everything was breaking with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And so Fox and Friends got the exclusive and the first comments from the White House. Obviously, later in the day, Jeff Sessions ended up recusing himself from any Trump campaign investigations. But the White House still stands by him. And here's a look at that and many other things we talked about. Obviously, the news of the moment, as there always is in your job, right. Attorney General Jeff Sessions reports out that he was not honest under oath. You have Democrats saying he needs to resign. What are your responses?
Look, I think Senator Sessions did his job. He was asked very pointedly whether or not there had been any contact with the Trump campaign or in the capacity as him being a surrogate. There was not. He was 100% straight with the committee. He did acknowledge that he met in his capacity as a United States Senator on the Armed Services Committee with the ambassador on a couple occasions.
So you don't think he should recuse himself at this point?
Look, there's nothing to recuse himself. He was 100% straight with the committee, and I think that people who are choosing to play partisan politics with this should be ashamed of themselves.
Give me a sense of how your life has changed. I mean, from the RNC to now we're here talking about breaking news of the day. You work pretty much all hours of the day now in the White House.
You try to keep up with Donald Trump, you're going to work all hours.
How do you
of the
do
day.
that?
You stay focused on the issues that are at hand and try to work with the team to acknowledge the success and the effort that the president has in advancing an agenda.
Okay, so give me a sense about, you're always this middleman, right? You between the president and the media and the press, which is
well, no, he speaks very directly many times.
He does as well,
Yeah.
but often you're in a difficult role. I do wonder, who do you fear more, President Trump or the media?
Well, I don't fear anybody. I don't want to disappoint this president. I think he's given me and the rest of the team here an incredible honor to help facilitate and advance the agenda and the vision that he has.
How involved is he in what you do every day? Does he give you feedback? Has he ever been really tough on you? What does he say?
One thing about President Trump is that you always know where you stand with him. He'll.
What are the things he says to you?
I'm not going to reveal them, but I'll tell you, he will give you constructive criticism and tell you, but he'll give you effusive praise. He'll tell you when you've done a great job. There's a reason that in his business people work for him for 10, 20, 30 years. He's a man who inspires loyalty. He inspires you to do your best, and he lets you know it.
So he was on Fox and Friends earlier this week, as I'm sure you saw, and there was an interesting moment.
What grade would you give yourself, from an A to an F?
I think in terms of effort, which means something, but I give myself an A+. Okay, effort, but that's, results are more important. In terms of messaging, I would give myself a C or a C+.
Would you agree with that?
Look, I think I'm always somebody who believes that you can do better. I think you saw an amazing joint address the other night. The poll after poll in the high 80s throughout the country. People from the right, the left, pundits, members of Congress, giving him amazing marks. So, maybe going into it, we had a C+ coming out of there. We're back in the A range.
What grade would you give yourself?
I would agree with the president right now that we've got some work to do, but we're working hard every single day. And I think that if you look at the full semester, if we're going to grade like that, then I think after the other night, we're well on the way.
It'll
to
be
getting
higher
an
than
A.
a C.
Yeah, I mean, look at the joint address is something that so many people in this country, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, agnostic, independent, people who, just looked and said, I'm very proud to be part of the agenda and the vision that the president articulated that night.
When you look back at the past few months that you've been in your job, what's the one thing you would do differently?
There's a few things. I mean, I think every time I walk out of a briefing, I gather with my team. Where did we, what did we do well? What could we have done better? What answers could have been crisper? Where do we have to clean something up? So I don't think it's just one thing.
Well, the leaks, that's been a problem, as you know well.
Right.
And last week you pulled your staff into your office, right? Told them to hand over their cell phones?
Well, I'm not going to get into details of what we do, but I obviously, when you look at what the president's been very clear at, and he noted it on Fox and Friends the other day.
That's not the way he said he would have done
but
it, but he said he'd let you do what you wanted to do.
Right, and I think that what the president's main concern continues to be is that there's an issue in the administration writ large in the government where you have people who are entrusted with national security secrets, with classified information, that aren't handling it properly. And that's a problem because it undermines our national security.
And you stand by the way that you handled it?
Well, obviously, I think that what we try to do is to make sure that people understand that anything that comes out of here undermines the president's ability to articulate the agenda. And so we will do what we can to make sure that information stays in the appropriate hands.
Abby, great job.
Yeah, could not have been nicer. And as you guys experience when you're there, they give you such access to everything. They want us, they want the American people to see what they're experiencing in there. So tomorrow we're going to show the more personal side of Sean Spicer because he's got a really interesting past and just how he feels about being in that office. Such a huge role.
And by the way, did the word come out that maybe they were going to cancel when this news broke, being that it went from let's talk about what your job's like to, oh my goodness, Senator Sessions is in some turmoil?
Yeah, I always wanted to get a little news, but we had no idea what we were walking into. And luckily he had no problem? He said he had just talked to the president and he had given him how he was feeling. So it came directly from him. As we know, they communicate all day long.
That says they have the open door policy. They're not going to wait 2 days to talk to you. They're like, yeah, we have breaking news, but
which is what you want to hear.
Right. Thanks,
Good job,
Abby. Great job.
Thanks, you guys.
More tomorrow.
All right, meanwhile, still ahead, President Trump calling for a huge overhaul to the nation's immigration system, demanding illegals come to America the right way. It took our next guest 4 years and $50,000 to get here legally, and he doesn't regret it one bit.
Plus, the media's in hysterics over the vice president using a personal email when he was governor of Indiana, even comparing him to Hillary Clinton. But one problem, he did nothing wrong.
You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any directions you choose.
Oh, the places you'll go, she's reading. That's the First Lady reading to a group of children at a hospital, New York Presbyterian, here in New York City.
In her first solo outing, Mrs. Trump going page by page with the Dr. Seuss book of the places you'll go.
It's in honor of what, Brian?
Yeah, it's in honor of the author's birthday, Read Across America Day. She also spoke to each child individually and posed for pictures. You know what I think is great? I think that she is gradually going to grow to love this role. I think that she's just getting used to the spotlight. I wouldn't be surprised if she really embraces this by the end of the term.
I'm sure all those children loved having her.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, President Trump calling for a huge overhaul in the nation's immigration system.
Switching away from this current system of lower-skilled immigration and instead adopting a merit-based system, we will have so many more benefits. It will save countless dollars, raise workers' wages, and help struggling families, including immigrant families, enter the middle class.
Our next guest spent 4 years and nearly $50,000 to come here to America, and now Nick Adams has a green card. So what does a legal immigrant think about President Trump's plan?
Let's talk to him. Nick Adams is the CEO of Flag the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness and author of Green Card Warrior, Retaking America. Nick, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us today from Dallas.
Good morning, guys.
Okay, so currently our immigration system is largely based on family connections. You know, my uncle came there, or my father, or my child was born in the country, so they're a citizen. But instead, the president would like to move toward a merit-based situation. How would that work?
Steve, that's a brilliant idea. That's exactly what needs to happen. We need to elevate skills and employability over family ties. Look, if America is going to remain the best nation on this earth, we've got to make sure that we bring only the best people here. If America is going to remain the exceptional country, we need to make sure that people that are coming here are going to be American, are going to subscribe to American values, that are going to understand the things that make America special and the things that make America different. They've got to subscribe to our values: individualism, not collectivism; e pluribus unum, not multiculturalism; equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. These are the things that have always set America apart from the rest of the world.
Well, you are the poster child, and Nick, tell us about your story.
Well, Ainsley, look, it was really hard for me to come to the United States of America and become an immigrant. It did take me a very long time. It cost me a bucket load of money. But I've got to tell you that every single day that I wake up here in the United States, I thank God, because this is just such a special country. My life would be totally different. And what makes America special is the fact that it's not just a country, it's an idea. It's an ideal. And there has to be a cultural buy-in from those that decide to make America home. They can't just come here and milk us. They've got to love the place, and they've got to become American.
But is there a danger in only going for the Einsteins when it comes to immigrants, or the Deepak Chopras? Or we have to only go for first-round draft picks?
No, look, Brian, you're right. We need a variety of different people, but I think it's really important that when people come to America, that they're proficient in English, that they have work experience, that they have job prospects. They're the type of people that we want in the United States. It takes all kinds of people to make a society work, but I think that when it comes to immigration and a limited number of people that can come at any given time, we need to make sure that only the best of the best come.
All right, Nick Adams, author of Green Card Warrior, Retaking America. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Australia does that. Canada does that.
Sure.
Many countries do that.
Absolutely. And there's Nick. He came to this country. It cost him a lot. Took him a long time. Where does he live? Could live anywhere. lives in
Now
Texas.
that is a great American story,
There
right?
you go. All right, meanwhile, coming up on this Friday, the mainstream media in hysterics over the vice president's personal use of email when he was governor. But there's a big difference between his use and Hillary Clinton's. Investigators in Oregon say Judge Monica Herranz allowed Didier Salazar to sneak out of her county courtroom to avoid ICE agents who were waiting outside to pick him up. He was there on a drunk driving charge when somebody reportedly let him use the judge's private entrance to make a getaway. Salazar was eventually arrested. The judge still got the job, still on the bench. And no more kneeling for Colin Kaepernick. He needs the job. And the quarterback for the 49ers says he plans to stand during the national anthem next season if another team hires him once he's officially released next week.
And that's if he changes his mind.
They have openings at Starbucks, too.
Yeah, let's see.
Other news.
Other news, a new report claiming Vice President Mike Pence used a personal email account, which was hacked last summer, to discuss state business while he was the governor of Indiana.
But there's a big difference between this and Hillary Clinton's email scandal. So what is it? For that, we turn to Kurt, the cyber guy. Kurt, let's start at the very beginning. She had a private server. She had the machine in her basement. He simply had an account.
Well, it comes down to this. Is it okay to use your personal email for government-related activity? And for a lot of people, it's a split vote on this. The idea really at the end of the day is, does using your personal email pose a threat to this country? That really is the question to answer. And in these cases, be it Hillary, be it Vice President Pence, we're not absolutely certain that it did any huge amounts of damage. When you can find those dead bodies of data somewhere in the world, then I'll raise my hand and say, we got a huge problem here. I just think it's a lot about nothing.
The other question is it legal? Did he do something wrong?
Is it illegal for me to send you a letter to your office? I just don't think we have laws being violated. I'm not an attorney, but we just don't have laws being broken here to send email from one place to another.
How hard is it to go into the governor's email account if it's his personal account? It's pretty succinct. It's leaving your front door open, though, isn't it?
Well, here's the assumption, period. Whether you're using your personal email or not for government work, just make the assumption that the whole world can see it, because guess what? They can. So the fact of the matter is, it's not the best idea to use your personal email, especially if you have encryption at work or at a government office. Always more solid there.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. He had an AOL account, and by law in Indiana, what he did was absolutely safe. The big difference with Hillary Clinton is she had top secret stuff on hers. He did have some sensitive stuff that was sent out by the Department of Homeland.
And she had a private server.
She had a private server as well. So there are some, people are saying it's exactly the same thing. It's not.
It's not the same thing, but at the same time, again, I just don't see the smoke from any fire here. I just don't.
Well, regarding Hillary, did you have a problem with her, with the private email server, and then
you're not going to like my answer, and the reason is because, honestly, the State Department computer system has been hacked into so many times more than any evidence came about a private email server being hacked into that, guess what, might have been a safer move.
So bottom line is emails are not safe, and if you're using an email, just know that someone could be watching.
Is reading it. I think aren't we learning our lesson at some point? Come on, get off the personal email and start using what you're supposed to.
Go back to the facts. Those were the good old days. We can fax each other back and forth.
Pigeons were a lot more
Pigeons
reliable.
were good, yeah.
All right.
Except they all look alike.
Kurt, thank you very much. All right, meanwhile, today, special day, we're celebrating. Ainsley has been on the program exactly 1 year as of today.
It's been fun.
So nice to see the beauty among the thorns.
Oh, you were so
Thank
sweet.
you.
You talking about Brian or me? I brought you guys with me, too.
All right.
Yep, she started here a year ago this week. Where's that DJ today?
Let's go. Party Rock is in the house tonight. Everybody just have.
Come on in,
There she
Ainsley.
is. I'm going to be here and work as hard as I can and give you the news every morning and wake you up with a smile. I'm Ainsley Earhart. This is Fox and Friends. If you're just waking up this morning, big news. Thank you so much for watching us. Huge.
Yes.
Huge. It's going to be huge.
Watch this.
Oh my God! So cool! Why didn't you get in?
Maybe tomorrow.
I'll work with some wins.
Go, everybody.
Read us out, Ainsley.
All right, coming up. All right, Steve coming back in, or is that you?
It says Steve on the prompter.
Oh, we're actually going
driving around the city?
Did not realize we were going to go for a ride.
This might be my favorite day on Fox and Friends so far. We are riding through New York City in the Ghostbuster mobile.
I never thought I would be dancing with Cedric. I want to get you to dance with me eventually.
Isn't she the reason you got into TV?
I think I tried to hire her. Well, welcome, welcome. We are so happy to have you. Thank you for stopping by the Curvy Couch.
You're welcome, Ainsley.
Tell me, is this better than playing football?
Making a difference is always better than football.
How did you and your brother decide you wanted to fight for this country?
Well, it's family tradition.
Ainsley has written her first children's book.
So Dad was in charge of breakfast. He always had a scripture or a saying or some sort of a note next to our cereal.
Brian, this is for you two.
As a young lady, never ever sit between two men on a curb.
It's so nice to see the beauty among the thorns.
Oh, you were so
Thank
sweet.
you.
You talking about Brian or me? I brought you guys with me too.
All right.
You're the best, Ainsley.
Guys, y'all want to follow?
What'd you think of the debate?
Thought it was great.
Kellyanne, what'd you think?
An amazing night for Governor Mike Pence.
Do you feel like you're extremely relatable?
What you see is what you get with the Pences.
How did you decide she's the one?
First of all, I loved the Southern charm. I don't know, there was something great.
There's something about Carolina girls. You're just pretty good. You're married to someone running for president of the United States of America.
Well, it was quite an amazing year and a half.
I get to go to the inauguration with you.
And sit down with the president-elect.
So cool. I'm so grateful. What's the first thing you're going to do when you walk into the White House?
Well, I want to go to work. Monday is really the day that we start signing and working and making great deals for the country.
Hi, Ainsley, a big fan?
Yes.
Isn't she the best?
Love this lady.
If you were going to write a song, what would that song be about?
Right now, it would
Right
be
now.
about, this is the best year of my life.
Little did I know this would be my perfect year. Everything was going and is going better than it ever could. Better than I thought it would.
Well, that was Craig
What a
Morgan,
year.
right?
It
Hard
was
to
Craig
watch.
Morgan.
I'm so
and you after the
grateful.
show. Oh, look at you. You're crying.
It's been awesome.
It's okay. You get to stay another year.
Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere. No, maybe she's saying, I have to stay another year.
Y'all included my dad and my little girl
I
and
know
that
it.
song, and y'all are awesome. My dreams have come true. It's been a great year.
It has been.
Thank you. That was a beautiful package that y'all put together.
And you've done an incredible job.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that is why I don't dance on television. I did we danced, I think that was your
knocked down
first
the
day.
easel.
They had the Steve Penley portrait right there. Dance, boom!
Right.
There went the portrait.
Well, I also learned I shouldn't dance on TV either because
But
I'm not very
that was
graceful.
Craig Morgan who made up a song on the
I
spot.
know.
that is-
And he lost his son this year.
Wow.
I hate to be a downer on that, but
Wow.
my gosh, we've all been through a lot together. It's
It has been a
it's
great
been fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ainsley.
Thank you all
All right,
so
so
much.
Donald Trump had the second best year. You had the best year. Donald Trump had the second best year. Okay.
Y'all, we still have a massive show ahead. We have Ed Henry, we have Jesse Waters, we have Geraldo, and Judge Jeanine Pirro. They're all on deck. Look at that lineup. So fun.
Right. They have very good looking pictures.
Thursday, I don't care about